What happens when Homer has a sheriff friend? Homer is taken hostage by the mob. The sheriff gets shot trying to save him. The sheriff, who wasn't wearing a bulletproof vest, fell to the ground. The sheriff is in ICU. He'd stay by the sheriff's side, read him magazines, play cards with him, watched funny TV together. Under his care, the sheriff woke up. The sheriff saw Homer drinking in the bar. He shot his way out of the bar in a fit of rage. He took the fried chicken and found the sheriff. The sheriff points a chicken leg at Fat Tony. They're tied up in the trunk by Fat Tony. The sheriff uses his tongue to change the music tape. Little brother opens the trunk. The sheriff sprayed him with tire filler. Homer knocks Fat Tony's gun out with a steel pipe. The gangster gets caught by the sheriff. Homer and the sheriff got back together. It all started when Homer put a caramel apple he'd eaten in his pocket.
He's got a gun!
The candy stuck to his hands and mouth. The cop tasered him. The sheriff pulled out the caramel apples. The cops tased him again. He was pulled into the neighborhood for service. He introduces his sandwich to Sheriff Wiggum. The sheriff gets his sandwich with a puppy dog look on his face. While the others were doing their community service, he got to lie down and talk to the sheriff and swing on the swings. The sheriff invites him to dinner at the station. He can also change his criminal information as he pleases. Homer's dead, but he had a clone. The second clone is dead too, but he had a third clone. And so, the careless Homer IV died. 5, 6, 7. Homer had many clones, but they were all dead. However, this time, it was different. 30 years after his first death, Homer could only live on screen. Marge was tired of Homer. She brought Homer home, but she gets upset when she sees Homer doing whatever he wants. So she gave Homer to Bart. When Homer came to Bart's house, he was still cocky. Even when Bart kept bringing home women, Homer didn't care. Bart gave Homer a mecha body. He asked Homer to take care of his 2 children. Homer's grandchildren were very cute. They look exactly like Bart when he was a kid. Even though they burned Homer's body in a fire, Homer still loved them. Homer lived well at Bart's. Marge, however, didn't think so. Marge was lonely without Homer. She spent her days drinking. Eventually, she chose to follow Homer to the screen. This time, they could finally be together forever. However, 35 years later, advanced science and technology brought their minds and bodies back to life. When Homer becomes the Grim Reaper, who would be the soul he would most like to harvest? I think the first person he'd want to kill would be Abe. But what if he had to kill Marge? He'd rather give up that identity. The Grim Reaper knocked on the Simpsons' door. The purpose of his visit was to claim Bart's life. He chased Bart round and round the house. In the confusion, no one could tell who was the Grim Reaper. In a fit of pique, he immobilized Bart with his scythe. In the nick of time, Homer saved Bart from being taken away by himself. He even threw away Death's bones. However, without the Grim Reaper, people can't die. Homer, who killed the Grim Reaper, became the next Grim Reaper. For the sake of social balance, Homer had to take up the mantle. He grew to love the privilege and killed a lot of people. Homer received a list of Marge's deaths. After the shock, what should he do? He did not hesitate to attack Marge, carrying her body to the top of the mountain. Homer finished the job and quit. However, his superiors needed to inspect the goods. He realized it wasn't Marge, it was her sister. Homer took the opportunity to escape. His motorcycle skills are legendary. He was able to cross the train just before it hit, and the superior's punishment was intercepted. In fact, Marge, who wasn't dead, was only missing her hair.